WD-05 syllabus formatting. This used to be called WD-04, so if you see videos on YouTube for 04, this is just kind of renumbered, but it's the same exercise. I'm just doing a new recording for you so that it can hopefully be shorter. Now, what I'm looking at right now are the 3 files that you're going to need, the instructions, which you should already have downloaded, and I'm going to be going through the instructions. There's the work file, which is last name, which when you open that up, you'll save it replacing your last name. And there's the PDF sample. Now, I'm going to take a look at the PDF sample right here, and this is basically a 2-page syllabus that you're going to do some formatting on. And the second page has some numbering, things like that. So there's some new formatting techniques, and there's some review of older ones that you may have done on the resume exercise. For example, this heading with the border underneath, we've done that before on the resume exercise. Setting a tab here and tabbing things over, we've done that before. Here's a tab with a hanging indent because there's text that wraps, and it should wrap underneath where the tab is, not over at the margin. So that'll just be review. Some of the newer things on here, there's a header and footer. Now, a header and footer appears on every single page of a multi-page document, and this is the information up here that'll be in the header, which just means at the top. And there's 2 tabs set here. There'll be a tab set at like 5 inches, and I think one at 6.5 inches. So there'll be a left tab and a right tab. So we'll have to set tabs within the header. Also at the bottom, once you make a header, there's also a footer at the bottom, and we're just going to put an automatic page number in there. An auto page number just means it'll number itself automatically. You don't have to put 1 and 2 and 3. It'll put it in there. You can change the font though, which you will do. We'll make it like 9-point Arial. And then the other new thing, we have done bulleted lists. This will just be a numbered list, and we'll just work with the indents and decreasing indents a little bit so that it lines up at the left margin, because when you first do numbering, it'll move it over to the right a little bit. And numbering automatically does a hanging indent. Remember, whenever you have that, you could do a line break to make sure things line up there. So I'm going to get started from the beginning, and some things we've done before I'm going to go through quickly, and things we haven't done I'll go through a little bit slower. Okay, here's the file opened up in Word. Now you can see it's kind of in like a Courier or monospace type font. This is called, it looks like typewriter font, and we're going to adjust some of this. I see an error in here already, which I'll fix before I upload. But one thing to point out is I did put multiple returns between sections. It's just easier to follow this assignment, because that way you can kind of see where things break apart. So I put that in. I know on other assignments we'll be using space before to create those divisions, but in here I just put the extra returns in there. So if you have your invisibles on, you could see the extra returns in there. Okay, and I also, you could see in some of these places I have tabs in here, which you won't have to insert the tabs. They'll already be there. Although when we make the header, we will have to put your tabs in there, and you may have to hit the tab key to do that. So I'm going to get started with number 2 on the sheet, and don't forget to do this because you're going to have to reset the page margins, because if you don't do this, your tabs will be a little bit messed up. So to reset the page margins, you could go to page layout, and you could go over to margins, and these are custom, so you have to go down to custom margins. So page layout margins, custom margins, and basically your top is going to be at 0.6, and all the other ones are going to be at 1. So you could just click those up to 1. So the top is at 6, all the other margins are going to be at 1, and then you could hit OK. Okay, next for number 3, it's basically going to be making all the type Times New Roman 11.5 point. So I'm going to put my cursor in here and do a Control A, which will select everything. You could do Command A on a Mac. And I'm going to go back to my Home tab. And if you see nothing here, it could mean that there's a mix of fonts. So don't worry if it's blank up here. Just go and choose Times New Roman. And I have to scroll down to the bottom of my font list to find Times New Roman, but you should always have Times New Roman. There it is. And to make it 11.5, I'll just type this in manually, 11.5. And then while your cursor's in here, you could hit Enter, and everything should be Times New Roman 11.5. Okay, and I think I had everything on there. I'm not sure why when everything's highlighted it's not showing. But everything's 11.5 now. If you highlight any of this, you should see the 11.5. So that was number 3. Now we're going to insert the header and footer on here. Now the header and footer is going to go up here. Now to do that, at first, you're going to go to Insert, and you can go over here to Header. Now it'll actually make a footer when it makes the header. So we're going to go over here to Insert Header, and I'm going to click on this. And I'm just going to use the first one, the blank, that comes up at the top. and it'll give you a little thing here. Now this won't be the font and it won't be the alignment that you want for this, but we're going to start with this. It gives you like a placeholder, and I'm going to start typing just the first part that says course number, and I'll put a colon after it. Okay, and then I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to hit CSC, and I can do a space, 112 space W1. That doesn't matter that much. So this isn't formatted the way we want, but at least I have the tab in there. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to adjust the tabs. Now you can change the font as well. So I'm going to do that now. I'll change the font. And you could go back to the Home tab. And the font for this top part is going to be 8-point Arial. So it's going to be very small. So I'll make it 8-point. And then I'll make it Arial, which will be up at the top. There's Arial, which is a very generic font. Okay, now at first you might say, well, let's just right align it and do all that. Actually, let's just set the tabs and we'll be fine. Now there are some tabs set here, which we're going to overwrite them. So just ignore the tabs that are here. To set our tabs, we're going to go into Paragraph and we're going to go into Tabs. And the reason I want you to go in here is because I want you to delete the existing tabs. There's one at 3 1/4 and 6 1/2. And to delete them, just do Clear All. That'll get rid of all the tabs. And then we're going to set our 2 new tabs, which we already know how to do. We're just going to put in a 5, and it's going to be a left tab, no leader, and I'm going to hit set. And that adds your 5-inch tab. Okay, then I'm going to add a new tab, which is going to be 6.5. And this one is going to be a right tab. So make sure this is where the other information, like the Summer A in 2013, is going to be. So this is going to be the right tab. And then I'm just no leader, and then I'm going to hit set, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, what happens here is this goes to the first tab. There's only one tab in this text, and it goes over to the 5-inch. So what you're going to have to do is come over here and just hit the tab key again. And that'll bump everything over, and this is exactly the way you're going to have it. There's our left tab, and there's our right tab. Now, if I look at the sample again, you can see it's going to look like this. So there's a tab at 5, a tab at 6.5. So we're just going to... you could just type this in. I'm just going to hit return. Now after you hit return, you got to hit tab again. So make sure you hit tab again and then just type in semester and a colon and then hit tab again, because you want to hit tab again. Don't do this. I see people try to do this and try to fake it. Just hit your tab key. You already set it, so just hit your tab key, and it's a right tab. That's why it goes here first, and everything will come in. And I'm just going to type in that Summer A 2013, okay, and then I'm going to do the last line, okay, and I'll pause this to type it so you don't have to watch me typing it. All right, here's the last line that I did, okay, so those are my 3 lines in my header, but one thing you are going to do when you're in this header area, just so you know, everything else is grayed out. It's a special little editing area. It's meant to be protected so that you don't, when you're working with your normal document, you don't mess with the header. But to get out of here, you could double click over here and close it, or you could double click here and go in again. Sometimes on the Mac I think you see a little close button here. Now also when you're in a header, it also makes a footer. Here's a footer at the bottom. There's a dotted line. Now there's nothing here, and we're going to put in a page number. Okay, now when you put in your page number, we're still in header and footer tools. You could do this in multiple places, but I'm going to go over here to page number, and I'm just going to put bottom of page, and I'm going to make it aligned right. It's plain number 3. So, you know, you could always format it later, but I'm going to put this in here, and it puts it in, and you can highlight it and change the font, which I am going to do. Now, you can also change the font. Instead of going back to the Home tab, you could right-click on here and use this little box here and change the font to Arial. I'll scroll up and find Arial, and I'll also make it 9-point. This one is 9-point, and that's it. That's the header and footer, and that's basically number 4 and 5 and 6 that are on your sheet, the header, footer, and setup. So you got to do the header, set the tabs, then you go down to number 6 and you put in your footer, and that'll change on every page. So this should be number 2 on this page, so you don't have to change the numbers. They'll actually get changed for you. That's why they're called auto page numbers. So that's the header and footer. Now we're going to be moving on to just some basic formatting, which I'll run through rather quickly. Okay, to get out of my header, double click outside of here. First thing I'll do up here is I'm just going to center these 3 lines. I'm going to make, now just follow the instructions on your sheet. I think this first line here, Warren County, is 12-point bold, So you could just go make it 12-point bold, and then the next two lines are basically 9-point. And that's all you have to do there, and they're centered. Okay, so that's all of number 7. You shouldn't have to do anything else. The bullets should stay in here. If you ever have to do a bullet, there's instructions on the sheet on how to manually put in bullets in between here. Okay, moving on to number 8. This part here, this course information, it's just like that name that was on the resume. It's just in bold italic, and it's going to have that border below. So if you did it on the resume, this will be really easy to do. And then what we'll do is just make it a style so you don't have to do it 2 more times. So I'm going to go back to Word, and I'm going to make this bold italic. I'm going to make it 14-point. And I am going to give it a space after. So don't forget about there's a space after of 6 points. So remember the space after, you go up to the paragraph settings, go find space after, click up once to 6-point, hit OK, and that puts that little space after the paragraph. And then we're also going to do that border below, which you could go up here to this area, which is the borders and shading. I usually like to go down to the borders and shading because you'll have to be specific on about how you do your border. So go down here, make sure it says border. For color, automatic just means black. I'm going to change my thickness to 3/4 point, which is just a little thicker, and then you're going to click on bottom border. And I like to sometimes click this off and on so it takes the thickness. Sometimes it doesn't always update the thickness of it. So, you know, it's just border, automatic color, 3/4 point, bottom border, and it should say paragraph in here, and that's it. And that should come out okay. Now after you do this, you might as well stay in this line once you highlighted it. Once you're in here, remember styles that you did for the last 2 exercises? Go over here, open up your styles palette, and while you're in here, let's make a style based on this. And to do that, you go down to your new style button and just give it a name. The name we're supposed to give it is syllabus headings. So put your initial in front of it so you can find it easier. I'll just use my initial, and I'll just call it syllabus headings. And that's it. You just have to give it a name, and you hit OK, just like we did before, and there it is, syllabus headings. Now you could go over here and go into course syllabus, just like the sample. I'll just jump to the sample, course syllabus, and then if I go down to the next page, course syllabus again is in that same style. So instead of formatting that again, you could just click on this and put it in that particular style. Notice it'll get the space after, it'll get the bold italic, it'll get the underline. And I'll do that on this page too, which I think is actually step 10, but might as well do it now. Okay. All right. Now the last part on this page that we're going to do, and this is actually step 9. It's actually page 2 of your instructions, but it's the last part of this page. Now this stuff we did on your resume, so I'll do this real quick. You're going to highlight this section here. You're going to set a left tab of 1.88, which is 1 7/8. To do that, you could do it through here, which we've done before, but also if you want to do it quicker, you could go over here, and if you see this little icon, if you click on this thing will change to different types of tabs. Now you just want to make sure it looks like an L, and then you could go up here on the line and just click in here, and you can move it around, but you're going to do it that last little tick before the 2, which is actually 1.88. If you're not sure, put your cursor right on it and double click, and you'll see it'll say 1.88, and it'll actually open up this tabs thing. But that's all you need to do is just set that tab, and that's all you need to do right there. We're also going to move down and do it down here too. Now for this section, there's a little, we have to put a hanging indent, but for this section I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to make sure this is on that little L thing. I'm going to move over here, click right on the ruler. If you don't have your ruler, make sure you go to View, check Ruler. That should be on, but if not, that's where you'd find your ruler. Okay, so I'm going to click right on here. That's at 1.75. I'll move it over. Okay, and like I said, you could double click to check it, and it's 1.88. I'll cancel out of there. And there's my tab. Now the only problem here is that this text is not wrapping. It should be wrapping like this part here. It should be wrapping underneath where the tab is. So all that you're going to have to do there is just highlight this paragraph and do a hanging indent. And remember, a hanging indent, you go to your home tab, your paragraph settings, and you go over to where it says special, and you just make it hanging. And it actually should know to go right where the tab is set. And it does. It went right to 1.88. You hit OK, and there's the hanging indent. So that's actually the first page of our syllabus finished. So the next part is going to be page 2 where it has the numbered list. So that should be good. That's step 1 through 9.